Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is Jonas Reports for the 9th of August. And while we're still relatively sitting at the highs and the ABM continues to rise up underneath it, in fact, if you look at what the latest ABM value is, 44.02. So that's pushing it up there. We're off just slightly here at the open futures, but we've been riding well above 33 with the magenta and yellow. And though we're starting to see a little bit of rise, and the last time we saw a rise in the NBI white was actually when we saw the most significant move lower. And the same situation is going to happen here. You're going to get these slow builds, and it's only going to take a day or two for all of it to be filled back in. At this particular stage, though, we're still making higher histogram readings from a shakeout standpoint. So from that area, everything is still congruent to the upside. Soft from a DOC standpoint. We've had midterm and short-term buyers fading off of this setup, particularly in an interesting time when new fund money should be really pushing this, not really having that impact at this particular stage. When we look at the NQ or the NASDAQ, again, softer here. We had a bigger move from the NBI white, but trailing off. And again, once that begins its move back down, it's sort of lost that impetus, that momentum to push lower. So you still have DOC weakness here. Steel crossing the cyan would be bullish, which is what the effect was when it did it to the upside. Well, doing it to the opposite direction, particularly with midterm buyers crossing below red. So we're getting a little bit of a divergence between the two markets, and it's simply because the NASDAQ's been a little bit hotter. No question about that. Gold. Interesting setup here from the gold. Literally just massive amount of sellers are calling it a little mini version of a mini flash crash for gold. We knew it was in its weakness because of the weight leading above the NBI, which meant that 0% was going to get retested. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The fact that we're seeing it continue lower, most likely because they're transitioning between gold into cryptocurrency. And that's just because you're seeing less of this inflationary concern, simply because you're not seeing the constrictions that everyone was expecting as far as how monetary liquidity and that kind of thing would be pushed. And so I think the fears of hyperinflation have been diminished to the point where you're not going to see the kind of dramatic explosion that you always hear from gold bugs constantly. From a euro standpoint, again, Eurozone is a horrible condition. That said, still it's going to be the battle between who is going to offset spending the most. At this particular stage, the U.S. has been ahead of the game, but and that's keeping the euro artificially elevated at this particular point, but well off of what its highs were. So the talk of the dollar demise, premature at its best. From our 60-minute Bitcoin, that break above the 39K has left things wide open for this most recent burst. Been fairly decent from its NBI readings. Been a little bit of a breakdown from the overbought setup, if you want to call it that. I really don't even refer to it that way, simply because magenta and yellow started to dip back below the 33, but still kind of hung flat, simply because there was really no pressure from weight setup to cause anything to really fade, and the closest we got to that was this breakdown right here, which a couple of bars before you had the magenta just literally turned around, and that led to another massive push back up. So again, easy to identify and see. From a 5K standpoint, well, it kind of tells it all. I mean, when you get the blue lines of an entire day in that short of range, we were seeing pre-market volatilities on certain days earlier that were far greater than that. So, just We did open up though with the power of that white MBI spiking above, leading to a move to the 0%. And even when it did back here, it just didn't cooperate until now, where you finally got that move back to the 0%. So it did in fact fill it back in, just a matter of having to wait for it. Couple of update items. Heading out to Como for a few days up north. Long overdue break. Able to travel around, explore the opening Italy finally. I will try and update any details I can on the Skype chat or via video report if possible, but possibly for the next couple of days I will be dark for a little mini vacation. As always though, if something unique happens or the setup breaks that I can put up on my remote travels, I will certainly do that and let you know. As always though, trade well. We'll talk to you later.